Brent, and you might leave one up here for Tom. You've got one, don't you? Yeah.
No.
Yeah, you do. See it right there.
Oh, yeah.
I'll leave one here for Tom. Just in case he gets a document fixed. All right, please stand. We're going to have the joy song. Oh, and do you do your introduction first, before joy or after?
Before.
Okay, never mind. Sit back down. Jay's going to open, and then we're going to have the joy song. Been too long since I've done this.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We're small but powerful, right?
Yes.
That's right. Would like to not only welcome you, but also make you aware of some things that I found out last night. One of our ministers' wives, Debbie Smith, is facing some serious health challenges. And we need to hold them in prayer, hold her in prayer. And so I knew you all would want to know about that. And we affirm and uphold the best. And I intend to make a phone call to find out if there's anything that we can do to help them and uplift them during this time. It's wonderful to be here as usual. And we come together affirming the God presence that is within each one of us, no matter the size of our group, always present, always with us. It's my pleasure now to turn this over to very capable worship assistant, Miss Ann Key.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome you all here, and now stand. We'll have our joy song, which is 183, and I think you all have hymnals. Is it in there? I guess it is 183.
Yes, it is.
Okay. I am the radiant life of God.
Yes, indeed. Good to be back here, I am the radiant life of God. I am, I am, I am. I am the radiant life of God. I am, I am, I am. The health of God, the strength of God, vitality, energy, venom of God. I am the radiant life of God. I am, I am, I am. Wonderful love. I am the wonderful love of God. I am, I am, I am. I am the wonderful love of God. I am, I am, I am. The peace of God, the joy of God, serenity, harmony, rhythm of God. I am the wonderful love of God. I am, I am, I am. I am the wisdom and power of God. I am, I am, I am. I am the wisdom and power of God. I am, I am, I am. The light of God, success of God, prosperity, happiness, might of God. I am the wonderful wisdom of God. I am, I am, I am.
Thank you. You can be seated. And we are welcoming back today David Rosenblad. And I think he'll be back in June along with India and Dana and Melinda. I know a lot of you might not remember Melinda. You all liked her very much, but I think we got to have her one time and then COVID came and that was the end of it. So I can see nobody is here for the first time. We've been having 12 to 15, so we've got a small group today, but hopefully we'll be back running again as June comes around. And let's see, announcements. The announcements, there is a book study online at Sunday at 7 p.m. They have started a new book, What the Mystics Know by Richard Rohr. If you're not familiar with Richard Rohr, he is a fantastic author and speaker, just wonderful, and he's been on over many, many times on her Soul Sundays. There's also the ACM, Course in Miracles on Monday. That's Bob Patterson's group. It's 7 p.m. on Monday night, but it's also 2 p.m. on Tuesday afternoon. Also on Tuesday at 7 p.m. is the meditation via Zoom. Let's get metaphysical. The Pathfinders is on Zoom at 8 p.m. on Thursday, meditating with Unity friends. And the links can be found on the Facebook page, and they're also in your order of service. We are looking for anyone that wants to be a greeter, and the greeter right now would be outside giving people order of service, and we take our offerings also outside right now. Hopefully that will change pretty soon too. And Gulley is in charge of scheduling the daily word readers and the worship assistants and the greeters, and we are still looking for 2 daily word readers for June on the 20th and the 27th. So if you can do one of those days, tell Ann Gulley. There's also a sign-up sheet in the back. In addition to our offering box being outside, we also have prayer cards and the prayer box. And you can put your offering and your prayer request in before church. You can also put them in after church. And you know we have our own prayer circle that prays over the prayer request for a week, and they are forwarded on to Silent Unity, where they are prayed over for a month. And group prayer is extremely powerful. So if you know someone in need of prayer, and we will be adding Debbie to that. We're getting started again, and we're kind of fumbling through a little bit. We're having problems with our PowerPoint today, which is one thing that will be hopefully completely taken care of next time. But also, it's not Patricia's son now that is cleaning. It's another little girl. She's 15, and she's a good cleaner and everything. But she empties all the garbage into our garbage can in the kitchen. We don't have garbage pickup here, so we kind of depend on somebody on Sunday to take that garbage bag out and take it to their own garbage drop-off. And if anybody wants to do that today, they can. If anybody wants to volunteer to do it on a regular basis, they can. And Jim does a great job with the yard and the mowing and the flowers and the plants, and thank you so much for that. If we didn't have Jim, this place would look like a jungle right now, I think.
Yeah.
We do have some things, though, that are in need of repair around here. You remember Austin used to take care of a lot of that stuff for us. We have a leak in the kitchen sink. It's the faucet that comes out of the wall. And that front door, I don't know if any of you have noticed, but the front doorknob is very loose. And unlike my ones at home that I can just stick a screwdriver in and tighten, I don't see a place to stick a screwdriver in it. And we're having a little bit of problems with our phone in the office, too. And I'm going to come up this week and bring a different phone and see if that's the problem or if we need to call GDTC. But anyway, if you can help with anything, it's always appreciated. So that is that. We're going to now have Ann Gulley read the Daily Word.
As we quietly and gently prepare for the reading of the daily word, remember that we are in spirit with millions of daily word readers in churches throughout the world. The Christ candle is lit as a reminder of the Spirit of God within all of us, which we call the Christ within. The word for today is healing. The affirmation is, my thought, words, and actions affirm divine life. Today I give thanks for the constant activity of divine healing life, especially when my body is experiencing illness. To bolster my awareness of my capacity for healing, I place my attention on my inherent wholeness. I affirm life in my thoughts, my words, and my actions as I care for my body's needs. My faith assures me that illness is not the truth of me, nor is it my enduring reality. Through my actions, I am affirming wholeness as my true nature and encourage my healing. Even when I'm not feeling illness, I greet each day by blessing my body, affirming my wholeness and the ongoing activity of divine life in every organ and every cell. I give thanks for the gift of divine life by giving thanks for my healing and living joyfully. And in the scripture it says, he said to her, daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace. Luke 8:48. My name is Ann Gulley, and we thank you for worshiping with us today.
Thank you, Ann. It is time for our Congregational Affirmation, which is normally on our PowerPoint screen, which isn't here today. So I'm just going to have, let Jay read that for you. It's, yeah, it's,
Please stand as you're able for Congregational Affirmation. I recognize and affirm my freedom, which is my spiritual birthright. Through the presence of the divine within me, I am led to my highest good, under grace, and in perfect timing. And so it is. Please remain standing for the celebration song 144, Now Are the Showers of Blessings. In your order of service, right under the celebration song, together. Unity of Boerne is a vibrant, loving, spiritual community, providing a sacred space for personal growth. We honor and celebrate Christ within all people. Thank you. Please be seated, and I'll turn this over to Jay now for the rest of the service. Here, Jay. Thank you. Thank you. We've done some tweaking of the order of service, so I didn't want to skip anything. This is our time of prayer right now, and besides what I mentioned to begin with, we know that everybody here, in some way, form, or fashion, and outside the walls of this church, have needs, upsets, cares, concerns, celebrations, and joys. We know the Spirit of God is with them in all that they go through. And we're going to affirm that right now. We believe in affirmative prayer in unity. So I ask that you join me in this prayer as we affirm that God's perfect will is done in the lives of the dear ones that we hold in this time of prayer, and as well as our cares and concerns. Infinite Presence, we give thanks for the prayer that you have taught us, which is answered prayer. You said if we have need of anything, we simply call on our Heavenly Father, Mother God, and the need is supplied to us. Your love surrounds us. We affirm that. We speak of that in our affirmations and in our speaking. We know that you are with these dear ones. We know that you are with them in sunshine and shadow. There are people right now whose hearts are breaking. Please, no, we don't have to plead. We say from our human understanding, please be with them. We know you are. We know that you are the giver of every good gift, including peace, the most important of all. Give peace to those who are confused, conflicted, and upset. Be with those that have joys and celebrations, and magnify those joys and celebrations. You are the principle by which we live, and we give thanks that you are with us every moment of every day and night. Be with those who need it right now. We give thanks that your presence and your power uplifts, guides, comforts, and sustains all. And so it is.
It says in the program that I'm doing a song called Love is Revealed, which is true, but I'm actually doing a little bit of a mashup here. This is a song partially written about love, being what we're made of, but also what gets us through everything, and we've all been through a lot in the last year. And this is a few words that it's sort of a post-pandemic. Blue sky teal, love is revealed. On a sunlit field, our pact was sealed. Racial strife between a fire and raging storm. If isolation had you lost and reset me, renew and transform, it's simple to see. Love is who we are, and that love is what we are. The layers were peeled, you can see it in their eyes. The truth was revealed as the old way dies. It's simple to see that love is who we are, and love is what we
Good morning.
Morning.
This is a weekend that we celebrate and remember those who gave all for their country. And I hope that we'll take the time to remember and honor those who gave so much, in some cases gave all, that we are here today. And we are free to be. And it's about that that I'd like to talk to you this morning. You know, freedom is a concept that here we almost take for granted. We forget that there are many places in the world where folks aren't free to think, to speak, to act. There are situations where there are people who dislike speaking freely, or dislike there are dictators and these things that we know about. And sometimes I think that we take it for granted that we are able to live in this free country. And no matter our differences about that, we can celebrate the freedom on an outer level. But we also know that the outer follows the inner. And I want to speak to you this morning about your freedom to be inside. And I would like to reference something that maybe you all have heard of before, but what it is was in 1914, a Lutheran clergyman named Joseph Sieber Benner began to receive metaphysical messages in his spirit that he felt that his own congregation would not understand. He was what you would call a mainline Lutheran. And he began to hear these messages at times of meditation, out walking, wherever he was. Sometimes it would just come to him, and he began to write them down. You may know the book that he wrote in 1914. It is called The Impersonal Life. And what it really said was that the Spirit of God is with everyone, even when they think it's not. For example, traditional clergy says there is a time that you are doing perhaps sinful, wrong things, and then you come to the throne of grace through their doctrine or idea, and then that is forgotten, forgiven, and you start another life. But Benner's idea was that God was with you and is with you from the beginning, and through the choices you make, even though you don't think they're the best, or you think they're the best at the time, and then you find out they're not, but really that God was with you using those choices that you made to bring you closer to the principle of life, of God, of love. In other words, you were never separated for a moment. You're not a surprise to God. That Spirit that was with you, perhaps when you made some choices you wish you hadn't, that Spirit was there and loved you and could use those situations for the furtherance and growth of what divine principle upholds for you to be. In other words, you can't really escape the love. The I am presence is with you. And Benner's book was very popular And he went on to write some other books, including Wealth, which is a little bit different than what you're thinking. He thought of wealth as also intangible values. He wrote The Way Out. These are wonderful books, albeit old. They're timeless. They carry the principles that we talk about in Unity and in New Thought, but it reaches an audience who thinks sometimes, I've messed it up so badly, I feel so far removed from the Creator, from my good, from God, I might as well just not do anything. I'm just not good enough. This not good enough idea, to me, is one of the worst enemies towards a new life. When we carry with us the things we've done that we wish we hadn't, and we feel properly remorseful, and perhaps we've even made amends where we need to, we still can sometimes carry the idea of a damaged self-image. But we're not. That's an opinion that we have either formed ourselves or have accepted from other people who had an interest in judging us or correcting us or wanting us to do things their way. I am a proponent of spiritual freedom. The right to exist spiritually for your own sake. In other words, if you're in a room full of people that speak entirely opposite to what your truth is, you hold on to that, because that is what is true for you. And the I am presence that Benner speaks about is a presence that cuts across denominational ties, racial differences in male and female. This doesn't matter. It has to do with one presence, one power working in you for a good purpose that you may not even see yet. And when you affirm and make real and recognize that spirit within you, the I am presence within you, you will realize that the events of your life, the things you've gone through, have brought you to the place you are now, and that God really was never apart from you, but presented itself as you made your choices. In other words, the personality makes a choice, and the God presence says, I'm going to use this in some way to further where you're ultimately going. The point really is that you're hardwired. You can't get away from the truth within you. All you can do is recognize it. And I think that many people feel this urge and call it by a different name. I've called it divine libido. We know libido, we know libido in a certain term that was used by Sigmund Freud and other psychiatrists of that day. But I'd like to expand on that. The life force, the elan vital, the thing that animates us, that wants to create and recreate, procreate, is in us, not only physically, but in the idea that we want another experience, a new experience. We look forward to more good, to things that we affirm and hope for. That force within us, that's the I am presence. But we bottleneck it sometimes. We hold on so tightly because we think it has to present in the way that we have outlined. Now, the last 2 weeks, I loosely said, or I said that I loosely had, this should have been a series of messages because I talked about forgiveness and then affirmation. And today I'd like to wrap it up with freedom to be, because once you've forgiven yourself and others, and once you've affirmed your good, then you're free to go out and see and recognize what your good is. And I want you to know you can't make a mistake, because the Spirit is with you, whether you know it or not. In the Psalms it says, where can I go? Whither can I flee from your presence? If I make my bed in Sheol, or hell, as it was called then, behold, you are there with me. So this should give encouragement to anyone today who feels like they messed it up so bad and that they know themselves so well and that they know that they can't just cop this holy attitude. Has nothing to do with outer observances of something pro forma that someone has said you must believe in. It has to do with the inner recognition that you are okay or have made peace or forgiven your personality for making some choices that you have made. The I am presence doesn't condemn. It upholds, it heals. That's why Scripture talks about the rain falls on the just and the unjust. The non-churched person can cut their hand, and the same force comes to heal that as does the church-going one that upholds all the rules, so to speak. That life force is present. What use are we making of it? Now, when Benner talks about the impersonal life, one of the things that struck me was that even when you feel the farthest away from God, that's the time that you're really closest. Remember, you probably heard the scripture, he's the friend that sticketh closer than a brother. Where can I go? What can I do to get away from your presence? So if you know that, you have a sense of security no matter what you're going through. You're sort of hardwired with that idea that the truth is with me, God appears to me as I need it in that moment. And I have said and quoted Dr. Emily Cady's Lessons in Truth, where she says, God is not just cold principle. God is the entirety of what you may need. You may need someone to pick you up, dust you off, and set you on your way and say, you're great as you are. The Spirit, the presence, this impersonal presence appears to you as you need it. And our personalities make use of this. That's why I speak of personality as being so important. To let go egoic concepts and ideals and constraints, opinions that we have formed about things and about ourselves. That can block or move into the divine channel of ideas. But when we're clear, open, and receptive and say, yes, I went through this, yes, I did this, for better or worse, I'm here. And I'm ready for Spirit's next movement in me. Then all of a sudden, all that junk falls off of us that we may wish we had never done, but brought us to this moment of spiritual sensitivity. I always said, don't downplay a crisis. It can be used for spiritual growth. And we want to get out of that so fast. I know any of us, we don't want to go through things that hurt. And of course, it's part of living. But those moments can be used in such a way that we are examples to others, we are strengthened in ourselves, and we feel set apart differently to walk a new road. In other words, put it real plainly, God loves you warts and all. And there's nothing that you've done, can do, that is a surprise to God. There are some people who make their living and their stock in trade is to make you feel guilty for the things that you have done. And the reason they do that is because when you feel guilty, you are controllable. When you feel bad enough about yourself, you will look to any authority out there that seems to have an answer and follow that. One, you get a sense of identity. Two, you feel like I'm separated from all those things I did wrong because this person says so, and I will follow that person. And then that person, who's ever saying that to you, begins to own your mind, mold it, shape it according to the doctrines and dogmas of whatever they may be a part of. Have you noticed that many times in traditional church, traditional Christianity, the idea of thinking for yourself is discouraged? You repeat creeds. You repeat prayers that are preformed. You please the ministry. You please the group. It's about walking in step and everybody doing everything the same way. I got an interesting story about that. One person who was in a situation like that in San Antonio, in what you would call fundamentalist or literalist Christianity, brought a daily word into the group. And they were told immediately that, no, that's of error, that's of the devil. The daily word. And the minister agreed with it and said, no, we don't do that. We are sinners saved by grace. You want to know the interesting thing about this is in the pastor's mother's home was a daily word on the table. There is a disconnect in much of what's going on in what I call churchdom. And I think that the walls are going to start coming down, and we're going to stop this artifice that separates us by recognizing one spirit, one principle, one life. If you, as I said, feel insecure about yourself, you're easy prey to those who give you answers. But I believe a good teacher, minister, counselor directs you back to yourself through a series of questions. It's important to know what you feel about what's going on in your life. If somebody comes to me and they have and said, I need to quit drinking or drugging, what do I do? I want to find out what it is inside that started that in the first place. Where did they feel not good enough? Where did they feel something that hurt and they tried to anesthetize it? That type of questioning leads to the truth. The Latin term is educare, which is to draw from within. The answers are always within the person. So as you can see, I'm not a fan of preformed answers to every question. I want to know how the individual can make use of this impersonal power to make their lives all that they can be. Uniformity may be wonderful when we watch birds fly across the sky, or we watch a parade, those kinds of, or even flowers that we see growing. All the sense of beautiful blanketing of the earth. But uniformity in people leads to stuntedness. I'm not even sure that's a word. Let's just say that it leads to less of an expression than there can be. One of the great books that was written in 1976, and it was very controversial at the time, was Your Erroneous Zones by Dr. Wayne Dyer. And Dr. Dyer said, be what you want to be so long as what you do does not physically hurt yourself or someone else. And even then he said, you don't always know what's going to hurt yourself or someone else, but you go by the light that you have at the moment. That's living. It's getting dusty. It's getting, as I said, you drag yourself through the dirt and just get into life with both hands. That book was seminal in the idea of personal growth and learning to listen to your own signals, to live by your own lights. I prefer to speak to people who have made the decision to live by their own lights. Excuse me, let me roll that back a minute. Not that I prefer it, I enjoy it. Because their experience becomes something that I can learn from or be excited about. But if everyone is doing the same thing in a certain way every day, because this is what the group says to do, then it's like the bonsai tree I mentioned last week. It may be pretty, it may be secure, but it's stunted and it can't grow. Let your limbs, as I said, extend every which way. And you'll find yourself mixing with other people who feel the same way. You'll find those attracted into your life. This force is for everyone. That's threatening to some folks who have a vested interest in controlling you. But I have tried to learn some of the lessons of this pandemic, and I believe with all my heart that the walls are coming down between people. And that the world that I talk about that's waiting to be born is going to be something so spectacularly fantastic. Because one way or another, we're going to learn the lesson that we have to live with one another. And it won't take a disease or a virus to do it, hopefully the next time. It will take the understanding that I have the right to choose for myself and you have the right to choose for yourself, and we come together in love and uphold one another throughout that, whether our differences are religious, political, whatever the case may be. Now, if it sounds like that I was hard on the traditional church, please understand that it comes from a place inside where I want it to be so much more. It could be if fear was taken away from the equation. Fear controls. As I've said, insecurity shouts. Security and certitude is quiet. You don't need to run around convincing someone when you know. It's only when you're insecure about what you think, feel, believe, or have been taught that you have to go find somebody real quick to be with you and say, that's true, isn't it? And we'll get this other person, that's true, isn't it? And then what you have is a group of fearful people repeating fearful things and saying, God is just like this. Because we all agree that that's the way it is. But the God of the Scriptures, the God of the Holy Scriptures all over the world, if you look at it deeply enough, talks about freedom. You can look at Buddhism. You can look at Hinduism. Primitive Christianity. The idea is, as you think, so shall you be. Not as your pastor thinks, not as your guru thinks, but as you think, so shall you be. There are wonderful places for master teachers to elucidate and give, and give thoughts and ideas about what spirit means. But it's ultimately up to you to pick what resonates with your spirit. And in this book, The Impersonal Life, Benner talks about this, that wherever you're led to go, wherever your personality feels comfortable, God will also show you that way, and if you make another choice, God will be with you there too. In other words, you can't lose. The only thing you can do that's, say, difficult is step on your own progress. We know Eric Butterworth spoke well in Discover the Power Within You about the idea of people who step on their own garden hose and then complain that the flow is so small. Take your foot off of it. Let Spirit have that freedom in you. Doesn't mean that your personality is wrong or bad. It just means that the more that you recognize the I Am presence, the more wonderful and joyful your life is going to be, regardless of the circumstance. St. Paul talked about rejoicing no matter where he found himself. And in Philippians 4:13 it says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Paul also said, whatever things are of good report, positive, wonderful, I'm paraphrasing, if there be any goodness, think on these things. And then notice, Krishnamurti wrote a book, the great Indian philosopher, called Think on These Things. We begin to connect the dots and we find out that spirit, not just Christianity, not just religious, but spirit wins its way through so many different sources. And you know what blocks it sometimes is our egos. The egoic self that says, I know it already. Yeah, I'm a finished product. The pastor said, I'm saved by grace and that's all I need. I believe the Bible from Genesis to maps. Or one of my favorites is the King James Bible was good enough for Jesus, is good enough for me. And it's not, you're not a finished product. You are in motion. And the presence that you need is with you. Whether it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you may feel nervous and can't sleep, or whether you're joyfully jumping up and down over something that you love, that presence appears to you as what you need at the moment. And we affirm this, and we live this, and you know what? I believe we love this. I believe in New Thought. Love not only binds us, and it's not only who we are, but we love it when we see other people expressing joyfully, even if it's a little different than what we may have thought. As Dyer says in your Erroneous zones, what a world it would be if everybody did things the same way. We don't all fall in love the same way. Why do we expect that there's one set way to the infinite presence? Our experiences in falling in love with a person or a thing or a place or event is unique as we are as each other. So my thought that I'd like to leave you with today is to know that there is no wrong way to recognize this presence. If you've forgiven and you've affirmed, and now you recognize your freedom to be. It's as if you graduated, you throw the cap in the air, and you stand at the portal of a new life. What will you have? What will you be? What do you want to do? And when it comes to the end, can you look back and say, wow, that was wonderful? Or, and this is something that's always sort of chilled me, in Dostoevsky's Ivan Ilyich, he's on his deathbed, and he says, what if I missed all the signals? What if everything was wrong? What if I am dying with my music still in me, so to speak? That's the hardest regret. Not the things that we call mistakes right now. We can do things and correct that and recognize the presence. But if we get to the end and we have regrets and recriminations about what could have been, that to me be very difficult. That's why I encourage you to live. And if that means making mistakes, if that means enlarging your comfort zone to places you've never done before, if it means taking up a new idea or going someplace or being with someone different, whatever it may be, whatever moves your spirit, whatever makes you vibrate inside, whatever you resonate to, run to your joy. And if you find you make a mistake and it wasn't your joy, you always get to choose again, and you have the experience. It's hardwired. You can't lose. The only way you can lose is not trusting your own divine internal signals that are there all the time for the recognition. If we just get fear, anxiety, and all those little negativities out of the way, and sometimes big ones. I encourage you, as we spoke before, we've forgiven, we've affirmed, and now we're free to be. Lots of schools are graduating right now, and there are students that are wondering what life is going to be for them. I hope it's an adventure. I hope that they realize in their young lives that there are really no such things as mistakes, there are experiences. And that they live fully, live boldly, and live beautifully. That makes us all richer. We love the differences. We've heard viva la difference. Let's be the difference in our own lives as well. And as you recognize this I am spirit within you, realize you really can't make a mistake, because that presence will prompt you to another choice to move you closer to your destiny. God bless each and every one of you today. I hope that your life I hope that you come alive with the idea of new possibilities. Blessings, and so it is.
In the midst of his children. Is this on?
Yeah.
The Lord said he would be. It doesn't take very many. It can be just 2 or 3. And I feel the same sweet spirit I felt oft times before. Surely I can say I've been with the Lord. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I can feel his mighty power and his grace. There's a holy hush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I can feel his mighty power and his grace. There's a holy hush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place.
Together, we are aware of where we are. We take a few deep breaths. And we come now to recognize the I am presence inside ourselves that heals and sustains us. Wherever we need healing, it is done to us by recognition of this loving spirit within us that never leaves us, that asks us, what will you have? And in this sacred moment, we place this loving energy where we need it, whether it's emotionally or physically. It feels like a ball of golden light that is above our heads and slowly comes down through us and warms us and heals us where we need it. Our emotions, our bodies. We recognize spirit in this moment. And we uphold the best vision we have of ourselves because we know it's backed by the truth of the God presence within us. What needs to be forgiven is now forgiven by us. What needs to be affirmed is affirmed by this power within us. We resonate to it. We relax into the arms of the one that has never left us, even for a moment. And in this presence we live, move, and have our being. And in this moment we remember ourselves. We recreate ourselves through the power and the love and the presence of the God within. Joy comes up inside us as we recognize our freedom to choose, our freedom to reorder our lives, to make different choices. know we're backed resolutely by the presence and the power of God. And in this warmth, in this wonderful light inside, we lean back and say, Spirit, have your way. And we find ourselves ready and able to face a new week, new challenges, wonderful attitude of pure positivity, because we've recognized and made contact with the presence of infinite Spirit. We give thanks for this moment of meditation and recreation. And so it is.
Hallelujah. 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 Hallelujah.
I want to say a special good morning to those who are watching us online. And at this time in our service, we collect our tithes and offerings. And I'm sure that each one of you know, it's obvious that it takes funds and tithes, donations, offerings of all kinds for us to continue our church and our ministry. And I was made aware that our PayPal button works on our Facebook page, so now you're able to press a button and give. Still, there are some who like to give online, by mail. And so for this, I'll give the address, and I ask that you prayerfully consider your best gift as we begin to get back on our feet here at Unity of Boerne. Wonderful things are coming. We know it, we affirm it, we see it. And I affirm it and see it in your lives right now. We know the blessed law of life is that as you give, you receive. And with the expectancy that you give, the blessing increases. It's just God's wonderful law of life. So I invite you to do that. If you'd rather send your gift to the physical church, the address is Unity of Boerne, P.O. Box 1973, Boerne, Texas 78006. Again, that's Unity of Boerne, P.O. Box 1973, Boerne, Texas 78006. And now, regardless of whether you have a gift to give or not, I ask you to visualize in your hands something you're thankful for, whatever this may be. If you have the gift to give, please hold that. But if not, visualize something that you love and you want more of in your life. And repeat our blessing. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And I send it forth with my blessings and my love.
Freely, freely I have received. Freely, freely I'll give. Divine love through me blesses all that I am, all that I give and receive.
power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.
I think I need to actually take, I'm gonna guess that you need this on your computer. And it's not configured for a different computer. Once you look at that, that's the nutshell right there. I don't have to. We suspect it is because something has changed on the computer. And, don't worry about it. Chris,
Don't put me on there, because I'm not completely.
do you know that it was
And my daughter
Yes.
is,
And that
so
word
good to see you.
that word that you gave, so appropriate.
Oh, no, wasn't it so? Yeah.
well,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, and I hope you feel
And that's like blasting through this stuff at the end, just sort of like,
I feel better because Chris is signing up for the daddy.
How are you?